What I say to begin with here is going to sound like a joke, but it is no joke. There is no punchline to this. It's simply an illustration. And the question is, what do you call a boat that has no bottom? You see why I say it sounds like a joke? What do you call a boat that has no bottom? You could call it kindling, you could call it junk, you could call it a garden decoration, because I know of people who would turn it into a flower bed. But the point is this, you could call it maybe 100 different things, except a boat. Maybe you could say it used to be a boat, but a boat by very definition is something that carries you on the water, something that floats. And if it can't do that, it is no longer a boat. So call it anything except a boat. Now, you might say, Ken, why are you so adamant about a boat? And I say, I'm not. I'm adamant about the question that leads me to. What do you call the church if it has no foundation? What do you call Christianity if it has no base? The point is, you can call the church 100 different things, but it's not the church. You can call it anything except the church. It was about 7 years ago, and I was sitting in church and I was bored. I know, I'm the only person this has ever happened to, right? And some of the reason was the main pastor was gone, and so it was the secondary guy, and he's not near as good. You know, I understand that. But on this day, it seemed like more. It was like I was agitated. I was sitting here in church, and I'm thinking to myself, is this really the pinnacle of everything? Is this really what Jesus died for? So we could sing a few songs, and a guy could get up and talk for 40 minutes, and then we could shake hands and leave. Is this what I should give my life to? And because I was agitated, I was like searching for something else. And I felt drawn to the book of Ephesians, and I opened it up, and I just started reading until I came across this verse, and it was like the sun came out from behind the clouds. It says, "Together we are his building, built on the foundation of the apostles and prophets." And I thought, there it is. This is the problem. The biggest problem I know. See, I don't even like saying that. The biggest problem, my top reason, well, it's one of them. It's one of my top 2 or 3, and it's always there. Because I have many faults that I find with my religion. That's how I term it, my religion, with Christianity that I am a part of. We have all kinds of things that we've done wrong, all kinds of faults. But if I were to make a list, one of the things that is always at the top is we have lost the apostles and prophets. And because we lost them, we put other giftings and other people at the heart of the church, at the heart of Christianity. And we put giftings there that are not supposed to be there. And so I'm not knocking those people, I'm knocking the whole system that put the wrong thing into that place. You see, we put teachers at the heart of Christianity. This is why we are told again and again, a man holds up a Bible and says, "This is all you need." That's a teacher. And this is why in churches we got to have more time to teach, and we got to have more time for Sunday school, and we got to have more time to do this, because we have teachers at the heart of Christianity. And teachers tell us we need to teach more and we need to learn more. This is why doctrine is one of the highest things in Christianity, because we put teachers at the heart of it. Teachers are our foundation, and they aren't supposed to be. We have lost the people. We have lost the giftings that are supposed to be the heartbeat of Christianity. And if you don't have them and you put something else at its place, then you have a boat with no bottom. It is not Christianity. It is not the church. I don't know what you call it, I have one friend that calls it the Elks Club. Well, that's one of 100 things you could call the church. But it is not the church that God intended. Paul told us that Christianity, the kingdom of God, is power, not words. And if it is power and not words, then teachers cannot be the heartbeat of Christianity. They cannot be the foundation of Christianity. When was the last time we had a church service? We had a Bible study. We had a gathering. And the only thing we were concerned about was God's power. Because Paul tells us the kingdom of God is power, not words. And I don't mean when was the last time we talked about power. When was the last time we got together and talked about the power we have and what we can do? No, when is the last time where our whole emphasis was on demonstrating the power? Because that's what Jesus did. Jesus modeled for us, show people, demonstrate the kingdom, and then maybe you can talk. Without that, you don't have anything. You have talk. You don't have the foundation. You don't have the heartbeat. You don't have the core of Christianity. You're just talking about what should be the core of Christianity. I waited years to do a YouTube channel. In fact, I had a glitch in my computer the other day, and it opened up a YouTube channel that I had made years ago and never made public. And I don't even know how many videos that I made and only showed like about 4 people. But I didn't make it public because I don't want to be another teacher. I don't want to be another voice. So when I do this, I don't want to be teaching. That's not the main thing that I'm doing. The main thing that I always say I'm doing is I'm searching for people. I'm searching for people who say, what if we don't have Christianity if we don't have this power? I'm searching for people who will demand and say, whatever we're experiencing now is not Christianity. I don't know what you call it, but it is not what the Bible talks about until we recover the foundational giftings. And then that's just the beginning, because I don't believe the apostles and prophets are everything. I believe they are just a base. They are a base that allows people to build things on. And see, Jesus once told the story of what you build upon, right? And we used to sing a song in Sunday school about the wise man building his house upon the rock and the foolish man building his house upon the sand. And the end of the song, of the sand part, that was always my favorite as a kid, because you could say, and the house on the sand went smush, and we made all these sound effects. But the point of that story is, what you build upon determines whether anything lasts. So you can, this is why Christianity, I'm not saying it can't do anything good. I'm saying it can't do anything that's lasting, and it can't build continually upon things. It has to constantly be starting over because it doesn't have a solid base. And so we really can't go anywhere. We can do a few things, and then it's going to be wiped out. When Christianity began, here's our beginnings. Here's the core of Christianity. Shadows healed people at the beginning. Handkerchiefs healed people. Jesus, who was the very first apostle, that's what he was, the first one sent, the first model of the apostle that we had. Well, he came on the scene, and without saying a word, it was like demons were everywhere. Do you realize that demons have always been on this earth? As long as we know of, as long as human history, demons have been on this earth. But in the Old Testament, you almost never, ever read about them until Jesus came. And when Jesus came, without saying a word, they were like cockroaches. It was like he turned on the light, and there were millions of cockroaches everywhere, and they were screaming and yelling and begging for mercy everywhere he walked, because that was the power of Christianity. This is what we had. It had people who could do that. And it had people who were prophets, prophets who were supposed to be greater than the Old Testament prophets. And you recall like Samuel. Samuel was a typical Old Testament prophet. And we read about him in the Bible, and it says that every single thing, everything that Samuel said came true. 100%. It wasn't 50-50. It wasn't 75% of the time. It was all the time. What he said was right. Can you imagine how different living your Christian life would be? See, this is why I think it's impossible to live the victorious Christian life, because we don't have the tools for it. Can you imagine how different your life would be if you experienced, if you had a prophet and you lost something? Because remember, this is, let me digress and talk a little bit more about Samuel and then go back to how different your life would be. But you recall when we first meet Saul, the first king of Israel, he's lost his donkeys. I mean, that's why he searches out Samuel. It wasn't this great spiritual question of who should be the first king of Israel or what is God saying about this. He's like, I've lost my donkeys and I don't know what to do. And he goes to Samuel, and there is no satellite footage. There's no internet. It's just a guy. And yet he knows. Saul comes to Samuel, and Samuel can say, here's where your donkeys are at. And now let me tell you even more. Can you imagine now how different Christianity would be if we had people who could raise the dead? What if you experienced that in Christianity? That you were around that when you went to church, people who were dead were made living. Or people that didn't have a leg, all of a sudden their leg grew back. How different would your faith be? I believe often that we don't even have faith in Christianity. We have hope. And not the biblical hope of assurance. We're just hope for it. We don't have this assurance of faith because we haven't seen it. We haven't seen stuff like this happen. We haven't been a part of it. How different would Christianity be if you saw that constantly? And how different would Christianity be if we actually had prophets who could tell you what God was thinking today? See, we've been hoodwinked by teachers. And they tell us all we need to know is see, God never changes. Yeah, but the world does, right? and all we need to know then, because God doesn't change, is what God told David about the Philistines thousands of years ago. You know what? Frankly, I don't really care. I don't care. There are things that we can learn from that, but you know what? That does not allow me to live the victorious Christian life. But if I had Samuels around me, and when I lost my car keys, they could say, oh yeah, check your drawer. That's what they could do. And if I was facing a big decision, what do I do in my business here? I want to honor God. What do I do about what schooling I go to? What do I do about who I marry? What if you had people in your life that had a gifting that was prophetic and was so powerful? They could say, well, if you marry this person, this is what's going to happen in 20 years. And if you take this job, this is what's going to happen in 5 years. Your life would be completely different. If we had those types of giftings, then Christians could live differently than everybody else. But you see, the problem is we have these stories in the Bible of people who could live differently because there were those giftings, and we're trying to do it today. This is why the church looks exactly like the world, because we don't have those giftings. We don't have those things that set us apart and allow us to do things that the world cannot do. Instead, we talk about how Christianity is different and about what we have and what we can do. But when push comes to shove, we make decisions exactly like everybody else, and we do the same types of things. We have a different reason, but we use the same process, to decide those things because we don't have the apostles and prophets. Now I realize some people will say, and the teachers will say, well, we had them and they died out, and that was supposed to happen, and now we can build upon that. And I have about 1,000 things wrong with that I really want to say, because everything you read about in your Bible is what I want to say. Everything you read about in your New Testament, it is impossible to do without the apostles and prophets. Because it was written to people who had the apostles and prophets available to them. That's part of Christianity. That is the heartbeat of Christianity. That type of power, that type of God being revealed, that type of intimacy where you ask a question and the prophet can say, or the prophetess can say, this is what God is saying to that. Everything you read about the victorious Christian life in the New Testament was written when those giftings were available. So you know what? We're not, when those giftings die out, we're not advancing, we're going backwards. The stuff, I'm going to say it again, the stuff in the New Testament, this is why so many Christians are frustrated. The stuff in the New Testament is impossible. That's what I'm convinced. It's impossible without those giftings. We're not building upon what they did. We've lost our foundation, and we're scrambling to try and put some scraps together on a bunch of sand, knowing that it's going to fall apart too. It doesn't work that way. You can't take a prophet who dies is no longer a prophet. They can no longer tell you, what is God telling you? All you get then from the Bible is what God told other people and the powerful things God did back then. That makes me frustrated right now if I don't have the same things available here. So it doesn't work. Christianity is not, you can't lose the apostles and prophets and go forward. You go backwards and you actually lose what Christianity is without these people. And even if some people really want to claim because of that illustration, you said it's a building. So they were the foundation, they died out, now we can build upon them. If you just want to go with the illustration itself, I say, okay, with that illustration it works. But just as often, the Bible refers to all of this as a body, as a human body. Okay, if we're talking about a building, you can say, okay, foundation, it died, great, now we can build upon it. You can't do that with a body. Because in this illustration where we are the body and the prophets and apostles are the foundational gifting, not the most important, they're the primary. They're the thing that everything, it begins with that, and then it can expand and become something more and more. But it begins with this. Well, in that illustration, the apostles and prophets are the heart. And you can't say, well, we had a heart 2,000 years ago and it died. And so we've just been going on without a heart. You know, if you lose the heart, you better get another heart. You better be able to raise up more apostles and prophets. Otherwise, everything is dead. We are a body. That's what Christianity is. We are a body. And why is it so hard? Why is it not working? Because we don't have a heart. There's no blood pumping through our body. If I can only do one thing in life or be part of one thing in life, I know what it is I want to do. I want to help recover these giftings. And I believe I've found people who have the seeds of these things. And I don't know how long it would take to water that. I don't know how long it would take to get back to being able to do the things that we read about in the New Testament, but that's my goal. That's what I'm going to spend the rest of my life doing, seeing if these giftings can be recovered. Because without them, Christianity is a boat that has no bottom.